let me share with you an engagement that I participated in relationship to Kosovo, which goes right to the heart of this political dimension that you are concerned about. Kosovo, as you know, was torn apart by civil war. It was a terrible tragedy, and Orthodox Christian, Catholic Christian, Protestant Christian, Sunni Islam, and so forth. It was all in conflict. How to find the way forward? In the midst of all of that, then were the strong voices coming out of Arabia saying that Kosovo should become an Islamic state, and Islam would be the official religion of the country, and challenging whether other religions would have any space within an independent Kosovo. It was in that context that I was invited to meet with the Islamics faculty of the university in Kosovo. And the theme that they wanted me to talk on was truth and freedom. Now, I knew that the theologians that were inviting me were involved in writing the Constitution for an independent Kosovo, and that in all likelihood, the reason they wanted me to speak was they wanted to hear what a Christian, biblical approach to this issue might be, which they're commended. I mean, I the highest respect for those theologians to invite that kind of conversation. And so when I arrived, the whole university had closed down for this lecture, and all the mullahs were sitting behind me with their turbans and so forth, and then the students filling the auditorium. So I said, I'm going to ground my presentation today on the Torah, mostly on the Torah, because both Muslims and Christians accept that the Torah is God's revealed word. And so what does the Torah say to us about this? And so I went right into the first chapter of Genesis, where God creates Adam and Eve in his own image. In the image of God created he them. What does that mean? What does it mean to be created in God's image? What does it mean politically? How will you put the political system together if you believe that we are created in God's image? And what about freedom? Well, you go on to the next chapter of the Torah, and you find that God gives Adam and Eve freedom to choose, even to reject God. I mean, that's astonishing. God creates Adam and Eve and then gives them the freedom to say no. And so I built my presentation around that. I then went to Jesus with some of his comments in his teachings, which are helpful as well in regards to this. So I based it on the Injil, on the Torah, and on the Torah, basically. And I said, I won't comment on the Quranic contribution to this. You are Quranic theologians, and that is your responsibility. But you've invited me as a Christian today to speak to these issues. That presentation was astonishingly well received. I'm told that the university was in enormous discussion about that lecture, because it was extremely revolutionary, where it says God has determined that we are free. Therefore, no political system has the right to take that freedom away from us. And so when you are when you're writing the Constitution for independent Kosovo, you need to, if you respect God and what his revelation says, you need to provide space for people to choose and not force one particular expression of religion upon the society. They need to be free to choose. And so that became a major talking point in the university for some weeks after that, I'm told. And I kept my eye on the developing debate about the Constitution for an independent Kosovo. And you can imagine my tremendous joy when an article appears in the Constitution that says Kosovo will have religious freedom. And there will be space in Kosovo for alternative religious movements. Even a group like the Protestants and the evangelicals are welcome to Kosovo. Isn't that wonderful? Yes. Isn't that wonderful? But that's the example, of taking the opportunities really seriously and engaging them. Now, the United Nations was important to the European Union. All of those agencies were important in this decision taking place. I don't in any way want to overstress my contribution. Yet I think I had a contribution which was distinctive, and that was that I based my argument on the Bible, on the Torah, which Muslims believe came from God. When the United Nations came and sat down to write, to contribute to the writing of the Constitution, no one around that circle referred to the Bible. I'm sure they didn't. But the fact that I referred to the Scriptures, to the Torah, gave enormous credibility to what I had to say. And I'm sure had no little influence upon the eventual decision that took place. There would be religious freedom. Why? Not because UN says so, but because the Scriptures say so. So welcome the opportunities to influence. I think that the diaspora, the Muslim diaspora in Switzerland today, Germany, U.S., and so forth. In fact, Muslims not so long ago were telling me specifically what I'm saying now, that they're living in this part of the world now for the first time. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of Muslims have moved into this region of the world, who have not been exposed to the values and commitments of liberal democracy. It's a new idea for them that what is happening in the mosques and so forth across these countries is providing new opportunities for debate and discussion, which is affecting these communities back home. I mean, what went wrong in Syria? It was a breakdown of civil society. What's going to happen to bring it around again, to transform? There's got to be discussion. There's got to be discussion. And I go to quite occasion. I've been in a Syrian mosque, and we debate late into the night. I plead with them, enter into discussion. You're in America now, so follow the way of democracy, which votes and talks and debates and so forth, follow that way. It's good. So then they report back home, this discussion that they have in this mosque, this Syrian mosque there in Philadelphia, and debating democracy and warfare and so forth and so forth. They say, these Muslims there in Philadelphia tell me that your contribution is providing opportunities for discussion that we never had before. It's happening here. And that in turn opens up doors for further conversations down the road. I don't overstate the significance of what we're doing, but I'm just saying in modest ways there's many opportunities to influence these directions that are taking place, which have come your way by right of welcoming so many immigrants into your community. Use this opportunity in a constructive way. It is a blessing to you and a blessing to the people among whom you serve. The church has a role. Got a telephone call one time. My home in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Chief Justice of the Supreme Court in Malaysia wants to talk to you. Really? Yeah. And he'll come to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where you live, for that conversation. So he came. Chief Justice, Supreme Court in Malaysia, came to talk. What do you want to talk about? Freedom and truth. Freedom and truth. You as a Christian, how do you put it together? Freedom and truth. If truth is truth, how can you have freedom? We spent all afternoon talking about that. God bless that man. I knew that in the Malaysia Supreme Court there was huge debates taking place about that very question. He wanted to meet with a Christian. Hear what we think. He got back to Malaysia and he lost his job. He was dismissed. So I just greatest admiration for that man. For a Supreme Court justice, he says, no, government does not have the authority to take freedom away from people. People are created to be free to choose. So he brought that back into Supreme Court discussions about issues taking place. And he lost his job. It's not easy. But it's one that Christians have a special vocation to engage at the present time.